you by IAMI with the support of our members, Microsoft, InMobi, Zendesk. In this session, titled The Role of CX in Boosting Digital Economy to $1 trillion, we have with us Kaveri Mishra, Principal, Digital Strategy Group, APAC Adobe as the moderator, Radhika Binani, Chief Product Officer, Paisabazaar, Amit Tiwari, Vice President, Marketing, Havels India, Anand Bhatia, Chief Marketing Officer, FinoBank Payments Bank, Shankar Iyer, Head, Customer Success, Infobip India, and Sunil Kulkarni, Chief Executive Officer, Piddle Softech. With that, I request Kaveri to please start the proceedings.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kaveri Mishra from Digital Strategy Group at Adobe. In my role at Adobe, I advise CXOs in APAC on digital transformation and especially focus on bridging the gaps between strategy and execution. It's my pleasure to welcome a diverse profile of industry participants for our session today. The $1 trillion dream was introduced by Honorable Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, as a part of the Digital India program. The vision is that India could create a digital economy of $1 trillion and contribute to 23% of the nominal GDP, up from the current 8%. With digital identity coverage for 1 billion people, 700 million smartphone users, 500 million mobile internet users, the numbers are definitely stacked in our favor to make this vision a reality. COVID-19 has been a challenging time for several businesses, but at the same time, it has been a game changer for the digital economy. At Adobe, we are observing a massive uptake in digital economy, and several companies as well as governments have leapfrogged their digital transformation journey by 4 to 6 years. This massive uptake in digital economy is being mandated by the changes in customer expectations. And today, we will hear from our expert panelists on how customer experience is helping us make the $1 trillion vision a reality for India. So let's dive in. I would request our panelists to react to some of the questions that I'm going to ask next. And what discussion today is going to be complete without talking about COVID-19. So my first question would be to Amit. I would want you to kick this off, and then we can go around and speak with a few other panelists as well. So my first question to you is that, COVID-19 has obviously changed customer expectations across the board. So how has it specifically affected your business? And would you say that customer is kind of forcing you to rethink the interaction models and pivot to digital? It would be great if you can share some examples of specific experiences that you've had during this time.
So thanks, Kaveri, and good evening, everyone. My name is Amit Tiwari. I head marketing and communication for Havels in India. Coming to the question, I think, Kaveri, I would like to take a step back in terms of thinking. It is not about customers and rethink. I think the entire business models have changed. The way we used to think 10 months back and today, the way we think after that, it has absolutely changed in the way our outreach to any particular thing. Because they also need to understand why I asked to take a step back is, before you reach to an end consumer or customer, you also have a value chain to build it. And that value chain is through which you reach to your particular end consumer. It is not that company will directly reach out to their particular consumer. That value chain has been changed, and that value chain has been rebooted in a big sense. So immediately after the 2 or 2.5 months of this pandemic, we realized as an organization that, first of all, digital, and it will be misnomer to say digital is any more a medium. It's part of life. So I think 1 trillion, whatever we call about, it is way beyond expectation because the sky is the limit today. People right from an age of 6 years to the age of 85 years, everybody is queued onto digital in one form or the other. And I'll tell you one personal example, and then I'll go to what example. My father, at the age of 73, he always believed that there's a fake transaction happens on any of the platforms on Amazon and all. One morning in the end of April, he asked me, how do you get things on calling on Amazon? Do you have to call them or you have to mail them? How does it actually work? So then I'm just like, what has happened to you? You have never believed in this. You always used to curse me and the people in the family that it's a fake thing. You're getting a secondary product. Go and buy. You are lazy people. You don't want to do that. One thing that has struck in my mind is that if you see today that entire transformation has actually touched the chords for everyone. Now coming to the business today, if you see business happens, how does the business model work? You have a dealer, you have a retailer, and you have an end consumer who buys from that particular retailer. If people are not going to your particular shops or to regional retail or any particular markets, how will you reach out to the consumer? So everybody wants things to be delivered at their particular place, at their convenience, without compromising on any of the safety and the hygiene aspect of building. And that's how the transformation has actually looked at. So what we think in the end of April and first week of is, we coined 3 basic words, because we also need to see, are our particular teams ready to do that? Because just by saying that, okay, it will go digital and things will be moving digital, it's not easy, because first of all, it's a mindset game. You can't ask a frontliner that will change your mindset and start delivering on what needs to be built. Second biggest thing is, are your infrastructure ready across the country? That's also a big challenge to build. So we coined 3 basic words which thought that will actually transform the entire thing, which is reboot, rebuild, and recalibrate yourself. And we rebooted in the business that we really wanted to be. How should we reach to the end-to-end consumer by doing in that process? So we started a concept called O2O, which is online to offline. So I'm using the same particular network of my dealer and distributor, but I'm using through digital. So they are getting the leads and they are fulfilling that particular leads. Their business is not compromised. This consumer is also taking that. Coming to the point in terms of reskill, you really need to reskill everyone whom do you really need to talk to. Right from the bottom of the pyramid to the top level, everybody has to have a mindset of what you really need to reskill. And recalibrate in terms of what business model will work, because you don't have a definite answer in terms of what business model will work. And to the surprise, a category like personal grooming, many of the player and delivery players who are actually supplying food, whether it is Swiggy, whether it is delivery, or whether it is express, are ready to actually deliver bulbs. They're ready to deliver, let's say, personal grooming equipment like your trimmers and all. That itself is a very, very big change in the entire business model. That's all from my side right now.
Thanks. Very interesting point, Samit. And your stock price seems to be at an all-time high. I guess driven probably by a lot of demand surge in consumer electrical and appliances. So way to go. Looks like those 3 pillars are really helping you kind of pivot. I would want Anand next to kind of react to the question. And Anand, I know that I was reading up a little bit about your business, and it looks like you have a similar story in terms of 3 straight quarters of profit, and also a unique business model, which it'll be great if you can speak a little bit more about that as well.
Sure. So thanks. And I think really good stuff, Amit. No wonder you're right. The stock market's rewarding you handsomely, and I'm one happy investor in your shares. So I'll just spend probably a few seconds on the Fino Payments Bank model. So a payments bank is, at a very, very fundamental level, it's the true definition of a bank, which is really about making your money available when you want it, where you want it, and how you want it, right? Which is what essentially banking is all about. And then you have all the other frills of, not frills really, but lending, investment products, checkbooks, and that kind of stuff. So Fino is basically a technology company which was also in the lending business, which is basically microfinance, and the BC business, so which is essentially creating a huge distribution network for other banks in rural markets when we pivoted to being a bank. So in some sense, we are an incredibly physical company because of the vast distribution that we have. So which is, as we speak, we have about 3.3 lakh merchant points across the country. These are kirana stores, telecom shops, grocery stores, etc., from where basic banking services are offered, and kind of growing that way. But to run such a large physical distribution, we've always been pretty heavily invested in technology, and which is why we call our model Phygital. So that's essentially what we do. Now, what COVID really, I think it really worked well for us. So what started with, as we went into lockdown and there was this big question mark of kya karenge, because for most banks which are focused on the underbanked segment, the migrant customer is a large segment. People who are remitting money is a very important customer segment. But I think from day one, our attitude was that we created a full form for COVID. We simply said it means creating opportunities in virus-infected days. So I think virtually, first couple of days of lockdown, this full form took a root in the company. So that was one. So I think we approached it with a very positive sense. Secondly, what we've been very convinced about is that, see, digital, etc., these are pipes. Yeah, these are ways of interaction. But if you look at it at a very fundamental level, certain consumer expectations are not going to change. They want something that's reliable. They want somebody to solve problems. They want to work with a bank because it can, as a merchant, because it's income generating. They want to keep their money safe. They want to access it when they want and how quickly they want. They want to move money quickly. So we've always figured that the fundamentals aren't going to change, whether it is lockdown, no lockdown, digital, physical, whatever. Phygital, that just doesn't really matter. So with that as a lens, we really went into this particular period. What it did do, of course, was that it actually just accelerated the use of a lot of self-help tools, a lot of ways in which this consumer, and if you can just imagine my customer, imagine a chai ki dukaan on a dusty highway somewhere in rural Darbhanga in Bihar, right? This guy is selling chai literally under a tree, chai and pakoras. So this kind of a person is increasingly digitally savvy. The guy is consuming OTT and all the fantastic stuff that comes over there. Nowadays it gets people arrested also. So all sorts of stuff happening there. So this guy consumes all this, is hesitant to bank. But what we realized was that the adoption of anything that will help them do something better and faster is very, very good. So we saw that people were increasingly coming on to social media platforms, engaging, getting their doubts solved, signing up to be merchants. And then during this period, we launched things like chatbot, etc. So the adoption was very quick. So I think just staying with the fundamentals of being very, very clear that this is an opportunity. Second, focus on a robust technology platform and staying clear that the fundamentals aren't going to change. They'll just remain important. I think just helped us navigate this period. And I think for us now, it's become quite a cookie cutter approach to then just take this on to different parts of the country where certain challenges still continue.
That's very interesting, business model, Anand. I would say I think a lot of brands would really love to understand how you got into that segment. I think everybody's speaking about the fact that the next growth is really going to come from rural India or from people who did not have access to some of these mediums and technology in the past. So it's really phenomenal the way you've been able to kind of capture that market.
Yeah.
I would love for Radhika to kind of chime in, and I know it's similar space but very different models and very different length of period that you've been around. So tell us, Radhika, a little bit more about how COVID impacted your business and how you have been pivoting to digital, which was anyway like probably contributing a lot to your business to begin with.
Yeah. So at Paisabazaar, we are the largest online digital marketplace for loans and cards. So digital was always part of our DNA, and that is what we did. But I think COVID was something which caught the financial services, more so the banking and the loans part of the business, quite unaware. So if I compare it to our sister company, which is Policybazaar, which is insurance, which is usually very more conservative space, they cut over very easily. So they were at 70-80% of their business even in April, though it's one of the lowest months in a year. They were 70-80% because the processes were mostly digital. They were telemedicines which kicked in for some of the other cases, and for some of the other insurance like motor insurance, it was 100% of their business. So actually, literally, it had no impact. Whereas in the loans and banking space, we had 80% impact, and there was 20% of our business which was left. So it sort of helped us to figure out what needed to be done, and many of the projects which we've been discussing with our partners for the last 5 years, with respect to digital integrations, with respect to instant paperless processes. Of course, some of it also had its problems because they were regulatorily not allowed. So nothing to do with the banking partners. All of us had our own plans, but all of that got accelerated. And then the 3 months, which is April, May, June, we spent in creating the digital stack so that the loans could now be from 5 days, we cut it down to 5 hours. And there are 3 or 4 partner programs which are now live, which are 100% digital, and we would not want it any other way. So I think in retrospect, it's like God sent for us, because everybody then realized the power of what needing to do it end to end. that coupled with the demand going to come from all over the country, because people migrating to different parts of where they come from, which they took it for granted, right? If I was sitting in Delhi, you took certain services for granted, but that is not to be if you're going to go back to your hometown in any part of the country. So in that sense, that coupled with the distancing part of it, I think all of us realize that digital is here and well to stay. The other big thing which we realized was that we have around 2,500 agents who is to call the customers who is to come. Similarly, we had like 7,000, 8,000 agents on Policybazaar side. So we spent second part of March migrating them to be able to work from home. And the best part is we never looked at how does the CRM screen look for the agent. So the first time somebody was looking, how do you look for the agent? Because we tried to equip most of them with a laptop or a tab, but some of them needed to operate with their mobile phones, which they had. Of course, many of them had smartphones. So how it looked on the smartphone, making it easy for them to navigate the internal CRM. I think first time ever we would have done such a large scale exercise on our own internal CRM, looking at how is it responding to the different speeds, looking at the response time by speed and conversion rates by speed of internet and which city they belong to. I think that was a huge focus, and that's caused a huge shift in our business model. So for example, while we've all been coming to office for the last 3 to 4 months, but our operations team is still continuing to work predominantly out of home. And I think that's opened up our opportunity to be able to employ anybody anywhere. Whereas earlier we used to have offices only in Gurgaon and our talent pool was only in Gurgaon. That used to always skew our conversion rate. So if you look at conversion rate in the south, it used to be shade lower than what is the average conversion rate in north, because you had talent who could speak to customer in their own language. So I think that's the problem which we were thinking, should we open a center in Chennai? Should we open a center in Mysore? That question is gone away forever. We don't need to open any center. We can go ahead and recruit anybody sitting anywhere as long as he or she can connect to the internet. So I think these are the 2-3 ways which good things have primarily happened. And personally also for me, I always go back and say, I think 2020 was a great year for all of us.
I like the positive spin that all of you have identified within the business and in terms of how you engage with your customers. It's very, very encouraging to see. And I hope our audience can borrow a few leads from your books to also enhance their customer journey experience. That brings me to my next question. And this would be for Sunil and Shankar. I would like both of you to kind of react to this. As technology service providers and as someone who works across multiple industries with multiple customers, what are some of the emerging themes that you are experiencing from a customer experience and digital transformation perspective, especially because of the pandemic? I think our panelists already spoke about some, so you could add on to that or basically talk about other trends that you're observing. Sunil, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Kaveri. My name is Sunil Kulkarni and I represent Fidel Softtech and Linguasol. We help our customers to deliver digital services, their brand messages to end consumers in local languages using cutting-edge technologies. So thereby we are in that LangTech space, languages and technology space, and India customers and as well as global customers. So one of the answering to your question, Go is an emerging policy across diverse industries. It could be housing, insurance clients, net banking clients, and automobile or bike clients. We are seeing this across diverse client segments. Because with proliferation of smartphones, data price going very less, a lot of customers this digital services. And that companies are realizing that trying to say localized UI. So some are doing by themselves, some are reaching to us saying that we want to translate our website or web CMS in Marathi or Telugu and so on. Who are doing after doing the operation, they are stumbling into the next block, which is the ensure that the customer is able to find the website. So that leads to multiple SEO, which is emerging theme in the digital marketing or digital transformation space. Because when your customer is, if you are say a home loan company, you're not searching for home, or Grah loan or whatever combination. So their companies are reaching out to us, and we are helping them with say multilingual CEO. And lastly, what we are seeing is when the user reaches the website of a particular e-commerce or digital services solution website or web application, their ability to find what they want. So if I'm a consumer going to say a big basket site, I might be searching for palak, for example, but the data that's in their website or web application could be a spin. So to convert what user is searching for into what you have in your database, palak transformation or conversion is also a requirement that we're seeing across companies. So ultimately, in the digital entire journey, we are seeing localization is one space, but then multilingual ability to find the particular product or service complete. So these are some emerging themes what we are seeing across all segments. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for that, Sunil. Indeed, it is helping bring the real India online. I think the translation services would be extremely important from that standpoint. Shankar, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kaveri. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be part of the summit and pleasure talking to you all. Kaveri, as people mentioned, the emerging themes for me specifically, I come from a company called Infobip. We are into a messaging platform. So we built a platform which provides omni-channel communication services, software as a service, where we build bots, we build communication channels, and communication platforms for enterprise customers. And I had the customer success for India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. The emerging themes which I thought was, there were two things which came out very clearly. One was there was a change or a shift, and the other one was a transform. So these were the two big buckets under which a lot of activities happened, and I could relate with what Radhika, Anand, and Amit, and others mentioned. So on the change bucket, you saw a lot of things change from what was a traditional method. So coming from a communication industry, I saw people migrating from voice to chat more because of a lot of challenges of resource mobilization, infrastructure, and things like that. I saw people moving from your connect on a website app to a more on a WhatsApp or on a Facebook, because then you could chase your customers, you could actually be with your customers where your customers were during this pandemic time. So these were some of the shifts which happened. And when these shifts happened, like what Sunil mentioned, I include the language transformation. I include what Radhika mentioned about the local language communication, because resources are available everywhere. Actually, it became more personalized. You could actually build those hyper personalization theory a little more further into the marketing activity, because you had to now use all the best digital tools available for you to connect with your customer. This was one thing which happened under the what I call it as a change approach. Under the transformation approach, it was about companies who were already digitally savvy. They had digital tools, they had everything. Now they had to transform it by using it more artificial intelligence, recording historical data, trying to understand and see what else they can do. Like I heard something like creating opportunities in the viral infected days, if I get that full form correctly. I mean, I'm talking about those who actually then transformed these existing digital platforms. Like, for example, if you talk about immersive experiences, where people actually got those experiences only when you touched and felt your products, right? You visited a car showroom, or you visited a consumer durable showroom. But when you bring that on a virtual reality or an augmented reality to a customer on the laptop or a mobile phone, is where the immersive experiences have changed. That's the transformation which a lot of technology companies have enabled businesses during this period. So these are two immersive themes which I could see which happened, and the digital tools were utilized to the best possible way. In fact, we were engaging with customers who actually never probably interacted with us on thinking about communicating with their customers on digital channels, to an extreme where they were ready to experiment anything which came through digital channels. So that's the mindset change which we could see, and this has been a great experience around that.
Great. Thanks for that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Moving on to, I know all of us spoke about the fact that digital especially has, enabled a lot of your businesses to be more successful during this challenging time. I would kind of want to also understand from you, are there areas where you felt like, you're still behind, where digital is not being utilized as much, or it is underutilized? And if that one thing could be changed, or if those few things could be changed about your business, and if you could use the technology in a better way, you could really change the trajectory of the business for you. And I would like for Anand to kind of start this.
Sure. So, see, I'll answer this in the very current context. So, I think from our perspective, one thing that we really feel the pinch, and we know that we are really, really underutilizing, is voice. Because, see, voice is something which is very, very natural, and the consumer segment that we work with is often challenged with being articulate in terms of writing something. So, if you tell this person, write what your problem is, or interact with a chatbot, or even on social media or something, there are challenges. So voice becomes a very natural way of the end consumer expressing himself or herself. That's one. Secondly, also in terms of us telling this person what to do, we'll sit and give this person 4 slides or set of instructions, gets a little difficult to follow. So that is something which has been a bit of a sore point. Yes, when we've spoken to partners, people have always come back saying, "Oh, but how do I incorporate Bhojpuri or Maithili, or the way Gujarati is spoken to in any let's say Rajkot, where the Gujarati is very different from the way Gujarati is spoken in Surat." So I guess that's where even our growth has been a little stunted on that. But that's one area which is clearly underutilized. Secondly, I think, and this may be true for a lot of other brands, I think is the use of video for analytics. So today, for example, when it comes to onboarding customers, you can use video KYC, and that allows you, it's a huge force multiplier, because it takes away a physical interaction. You get onto a video chat, you onboard a customer or a merchant. But I think using that video conversation, how the person is speaking, what's in the background, a look of around his or her store, to get a sense of how good this customer is, or how the future trajectory can be, I think is one other area which is a little underutilized from our perspective. And I think I have a feeling that most might be struggling with this, because it requires a lot of supporting infrastructure also to come up the curve. And so largely these two areas, I wish we could have done a far better job on this, for very, very obvious reasons, that it takes articulation, physical typing, and that kind of stuff, which requires a different skill set out of the picture, and just makes it more democratic and easier for everybody.
Makes sense. Radhika, what about you? I know you mentioned you've been obviously at the forefront of utilizing and leveraging digital in a big way, but are there areas you feel you are still not utilizing it enough?
Yeah, definitely, because it's always a matter of prioritization, right? So, for example, one area I could sort of resonate with what Anand had to say with respect to coaching your agents, right? So we are sitting on gold mine of voice analytics, where we are having imagine 2,000 agents having conversations every day with X number of customers. So there are huge data mine of voice which is waiting to be tapped, and obviously it requires a lot of undeterred investment into getting that tapped. So I think that would be our, like, over the next 6 months or 1 year, that will be something which we would want to work on much more, so that it can be on the fly, suggesting products to the customers, solving their issues, figuring out what kind of solutions that we can provide, what is the state of mind of the customer at this point of time. So all of that, there is something which we would like to tap and make it much more useful for both the customers and eventually us.
Great. And Amit, how about you at Havells, and what are some of the areas where you would want to see digital being utilized more?
See, Kaveri, I think after hearing from Radhika and Anand, I think two things that we really need to really define the boundaries, and we really need to define what exactly it is. First is, after strategy and synergy, the third used or abused word under the sun is digital. So nobody knows what exactly we are actually trying to pitch. Is it digital? Is it technology? Or it's an interplay between the two? Because your consumer doesn't know what the digital and what technology. It may be a good talk between marketers, technocrats. It's perfectly fine. For consumer, it's a means of convenience, and we have to speak to that particular language to it. You be in whatever domain you may be, whether it's finance, whether it is banking, whether it is insurance, whether it's consumer durable. I think first of all, there has to be a narrative of language to consumer, which starts with consumer education about, you may call it digital technology, its convenience, consumer experience, whatever the word may be choose as marketers or as creative people to look for. I think that is first most important to look them. I think irrespective whatever the domain that you need to be, whether it is high, low, doesn't matter. Second thing which today consumers are looking at, there are many complaints today. If you see even newspapers today, if you see, it's all about trust. So there are 3 T's that really works in this particular area, which is trust, transparency, and technology. So you're trying to solve a problem for a consumer and giving him the consumer in his hand, but do he really trust what you're actually saying? Is there a transparency that can actually build in? Every day, if you see, there are 113 to 114 complaints that actually go in a consumer cell talking about that I've been fraudulent because of getting this personal loan. I have not been looked for. Where are the consumer sentiments moving? And what happens is negative spiral in these particular categories becomes much higher. People don't want to take that particular risk. So by 2 points, I think first of all, we really need to define what exactly is the technology, digital, what interplays. And I think advocacy and education is much more important for consumer, because they have not been to the space. We have been working, we have been living, sleeping, drinking, for eating everything on digital and technology, not the consumer. They really need a handhold who can build this particular ecosystem and can be part of the ecosystem.
Sure. Thanks for that. That makes a lot of sense. You know, understanding what your consumer really wants and how you can deliver on that, whether that is using digital or other technology. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'll move on a little further and talk a little bit about, one of the key pillars that we speak about in the digital economy report is also around automation, AI, and how that is being utilized to really enable a lot of businesses to succeed. Love to hear your thoughts, Sunil and Shankar, on what are some of the examples you're seeing in whether with your customers or within your own business of automation or AI being utilized for digital.
Correct. Thanks, Kaveri. Yes, we see a lot of requirements in the area of automation, technology on AI or video analytics and so on. Basically, primarily, clients are using this for tapping new opportunities, A, or B, improve productivity of their existing operations. Either way, they are trying to leverage. So we have a AI solution that can localize the UI of any website or web application in any language in 6 to 8 weeks without touching the source code or modifying underlying contents. So we are seeing a huge demand for across different segments, as I said, automobile or housing. We are seeing companies are trying to create data sets for their chatbots. Initially, these data sets were for their text-based chatbots. Now it's voice. In voice, again, when they come to us, they are asked for local flavor or local languages. So even in Hindi, for example, there are 4 to 5 types of Hindi flavors. It could be Hyderabadi Hindi, Bombay Hindi, Lucknow Hindi, and so on. So we have to create data sets to train their AI engines. So that's one area that we are seeing things happening. Then some companies have, as Radhika also mentioned, they have a lot of voice data, their call center data. So they are trying to do a sentimental analysis. So we transcribe these tapes. It could be a call in Hindi, it could be call in Telugu, and then looking at the call or just looking at trying to understand the sentiment where the customer is getting frustrated in their digital journey. So, for example, you have created a page and where the purchase is happening, and sometimes the customer is unable to find something. So if there are a lot of calls around that, then the customer engagement team knows where to see put a fix. So we are seeing a requirement in sentimental analysis of voice data. Again, we also never thought that AI or technology could be used in languages in certain, or there could be a requirement in this. One other experience that we are seeing, engagement that we are seeing is video analytics. So customers want to, are creating e-learning videos, and then they are, so for example, how to make NEFT payment, for example, when you are using mobile banking, or how to add a recipient, how to pay your electric bill. But when they're creating videos, they are ensuring analytics so that users on their own till where they're able to follow and where they're falling out. Or sales videos. So insurance sales guys distributing insurance or mutual fund products are using the same e-learning material. But so what is the difference between a successful sales guy, especially semi-urban or say rural, and what is the difference between an unsuccessful sales guy? Through video analytics, how are they explaining, where they are, which slide they are starting with? So companies are trying to look at analytics. So we are seeing automation, AI in voice and video analytics or web driven using languages. Yeah, please.
No, thanks for that. I think it ties in nicely with what Anand was also speaking about. So it's good to see that you are also seeing similar trends. Shankar, your quick reactions?
Kaveri, I think the question was about how does this IT infra and this AI and these technologies are going to be a big contributor towards our trillion-dollar economy aim. So the fact remains that all these technologies, and Infobip is one of the players who is into artificial intelligence. We've created bots and we're assisting video analytics, voice analytics, conversations over different platforms. But let me put this perspective in a very different way. You mentioned 500 million mobile broadband users. That's something which is given, right? So we know that the smartphone penetration is pretty high, and so that's an area where a lot of marketing activities are happening. But please understand, last 9 months the dynamics have changed. You have a lot of internet consumption which is happening inside the home now and not on mobile, which means that earlier the entire IT infrastructure, or rather the telecom infrastructure and the broadband infrastructure for homes, which is just about 20 million in our country against 500 million of mobile broadband, was envisaged keeping only entertainment in mind, isn't it? So you only had entertainment, so you just needed for that. But look at what has happened in the last 9 months. Your education is also trying to get into that space. Your healthcare is also trying to get into that space. And we were just discussing about it, isn't it? 40% of the workforce in the service sector would operate from home, which means your network, your bandwidth, your internet presence from a home broadband perspective is a very, very critical aspect to this entire ecosystem. So all that, so one side of the story is obviously keep your customer in center, understand the experience, language, personalization, immersive experiences, real-time communication. But the other side of the story remains that where is your consumer and what are the challenges we're facing on the ground in terms of the infrastructure what we're creating. So this is something which we work with the telcos very closely, and we see this is a glaring fact, right? I mean, so 20 million houses today are on a broadband versus a 500 million mobile handsets. And some of the saying goes that we don't have electricity, but we have mobile network in places. So that's one of the fact which I wanted to touch upon. But having said that, yes, metros, urban cities have seen those the benefits of these super technologies which are in place. The first 60-90 seconds, I'm sure a lot of them mentioned about the interactions. The first 60, 90 seconds of an interaction with a customer at a customer care is all about authentications and checks, right? And these are those mundane tasks which has been happening for hours and hours. And these tasks have moved on to your chat bots and voice bots today. So this is obviously has helped. Those digital initiatives have helped the entities for sure. But then I think we're still far away from where we are aiming that. That's
That's a good point. I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, it brings me to a question that's being posted on the chat window, and also ties in nicely with what I wanted to hear more about. So the question is for Amit, and the question is that what are the skills to be developed, tools and frameworks to be adopted to lead the digital transformation? And Amit, if you could react to that and also specifically touch upon reskilling, right? So we were talking about this earlier that there is a lot of jobs that digital economy is going to enable. So we're talking about 60, 65 million odd jobs that are going to be created. And of this, about 40, 45 million people are basically going to be reskilled from their existing roles. So in your current context, what are some of the skills and frameworks and tools and technology that are being developed to enable this?
So I think first, Kaveri, the answer which somebody from the audience have asked about is first of all, reassess what exactly you do today and what's the gap between the skill set that you need and what is the skills that you're actually having it today. I think that particular need gap analysis will help you in terms of telling you what exactly is the path that you need to look for. Because if you see today, there's no point in terms of going generic. The world is moving towards micro specialization for everything that you are going to do, that everything that you're trying to do today. So try to do micro specialize in your particular field. So anybody will say use AI, use ML. Does that really help in your particular growth trajectory or the profile that you're actually being in? It's a good fancy word to keep it on your resume and keep it on your, but is there any landing it somewhere else? To try to map your particular ambition that you want to do, what your current skill set and how you can upgrade your skill set. So that's completely the reskill part. Now coming to the second in terms of what reskilling need to be done, I think today, and that's what I personally believe, people right from the class of 10 till whatever that you do has to have basic programming and learning knowledge. It's absolutely open source, whether it is Python, whether it's R. It's not about learning a language and becoming let's say a coder and all. It's about understanding the ecosystem much better. Today, if you be a marketer and somebody comes and present that this is a function that comes from R, or this is a function that actually comes from Python, it will be good. You will be very happy clapping, oh wow, what a data that I have. But what are the inferences that can actually draw from that particular data? Try to have basics, and there's always a proverb that actually works, that you have to be jack of all trades but master of one. Decide that one that you really want to excel in your particular field to be in. Try to be in that particular mode that you want to excel in your field. Then you decide, and you will find enormous things that can be done. Do you want to be a master in that, or you just want to have a basic thought, depending upon what's the scalability that you want to see in your particular career momentum. That's from my side, Kaveri.
Sure. Radhika, your quick reactions?
Completely resonate with what Amit said. So in our company, like for example, even at the interview stage, somebody says that, okay, I want to use the tools. I'm joining your analytics teams because I want to use AI or ML. I think I would definitely not hire that person. So for us, the tools are very, very secondary. As long as even a simple analysis can solve my business problem. So we're looking towards solving business problem, improving conversion rate, improving customer experience. I think as long as anything which does even an iota of thing towards any of these three goals, large goals we are fine. So I think I saw an question which was to me saying, what are the tools and techniques that you use? So I think we are not a big fan of tools. In fact, if somebody is saying, do you use AI? I would rather say I would not use, but I would want the business problem to be solved. So I think we are not big on tools, but more for business solution. Having said which, of course, whatever is required to, as in we don't want to leave anything on the table. If there's something which needs to be done to improve our efficiency, we would do that.
Also, I think, Kaveri, just to add on what Radhika said, just one point is, I think what has happened is people have started using more of artificial intelligence and leaving natural intelligence. My urge would be, please start using more of natural intelligence. Artificial intelligence automatically follow you. That's the point which I just want to mention.
Well.
Anand, I would also want your reactions on this one before we kind of head into our final segment. Especially given, the fact that you are actually bringing something as secret as banking to local kirana stores. I mean, I'm assuming that means that there is a lot of reskilling, there is a lot of changes that you need to do as an org and how you operate, right? So could you touch upon a little bit about that?
So, see, when this Kirana guy decides that he or she wants to become a banker and starts offering banking services, because that decision comes from them, right? There's a certain drive and a certain motivation. The kind of skilling required then is not very complicated, and the journey is pretty quick. See, the good fun about working with entrepreneurs is that there is skin in the game, right? For this person, this really matters. So it's not forced on this person that, look, you need to learn this, you need to do that, nothing. And the challenge at our end is to make banking as simple as possible. So, which is what we try to drum into everybody's head that, look, banking at the end of the day is len, making money available when you want it, and simple stuff, which means an incredibly simple portal, very, very clear instructions, trying to do as much as possible in being multilingual, and that a bit of a phygital model, which means a bit of hand holding to help this person start moving to a more digital journey. So this has required tremendous amount of discipline. Do we get it right every time? No. I mean, we will have serious blunders and all that will happen. Those things do go wrong here and there. I would admit that. But the organization view always has been to put as many things as possible in place that just keep making things as simple. So everything is very, very simple. The good part is that in rural markets, a lot of folks are going on and entering, offering banking services because it's crisis proof. It gives you a lot of respect, and their learning curves are very, very steep because they want to do this. So if that is in place, I think then the organization then has that much more impetus to just keep it simple and keep doing stuff.
Sure, that's great. Thanks for that. This brings us to our last question, and this is also a question from the audience. I would want 30-second reaction from everyone. So what is your one recommendation to the audience who are looking to invest in a digital economy? What is your one recommendation? And let's start with you, Shankar.
Well, I would say keep your customer at the center. The relationship is still there, though it is a long distance relationship now with your customer, but keep them in the center while you plan your digital.
Great. Sunil?
I would say I would embrace local languages. There's a lot of, we believe that last mile delivery in local languages. There's a lot of new audience that's willing to tap your services and solutions. So address that market. Yeah.
Great. Amit?
Say, Kaveri, it is present is past and future is today. So whatever you do, please think about what future needs to be rather than you actually want to do it today. That's what I would just say in my last comments.
Great. And Radhika?
For me, the word which I think strongly resonates personally, professionally is reimagination. It's about reimagining businesses, products, services, and also the needs of what could be in the post-pandemic era. So I think that's what I would want all of us to do.
Yep. And finally, Anand?
See, I think when you embark on a digital journey, then whether it's a chatbot or whatever tool, I think the most important thing becomes developing a culture of feedback, because none of this works if feedback is not coming into the system as to what's working, what's the right word, how should this get translated, or all this whole AI and all the fancy stuff, right? I mean, it looks very, very good on board presentations to say I've used AI and this model and that model, but ultimately you've probably just done simple Excel Zindabad. But I think the whole thing, I mean, one recommendation that I would have always is build that culture of feedback. Once that is in place, then ultimately, just as Radhika said, right? I mean, these are just tools and techniques. It doesn't matter. They're just equipment that you will use, right? But the software matters more than the tool.
Great. That's fantastic. Thank you everyone for your time. Just to summarize some of the key things we spoke about, I think it's really good to see that this is consistent across what everyone spoke about, right? At the end of the day, it is about customer experience management. So as long as you have that at the heart of what you're doing, it doesn't matter whether it is AI, whether it is simple technology or Excel, you're likely to succeed more. I love the fact that we spoke a lot about not just customer facing assets, but also internal facing assets and how the agents' journeys and things could be digitized, and that can enable our businesses to be more successful. Rural economy, and of course, capturing that segment of customers is going to be really important, and it's really good to see a lot of companies kind of focused on that. I love the point around feedback that you just made, Anand. I think that's important, right? You need to know what's working, what's not working, and kind of change as and when you progress further. And yeah, I think it seems like we had a fairly diverse set of opinions in terms of how customer experience is changing and preparing India to be more digital ready. And I'm sure we will not only meet, but surpass our $1 trillion vision that has been set. It was lovely chatting up with everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I think we are at the end of our
Thank you.
chat.
You also.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kaveri. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so
You have been a
much.
fabulous
Thanks,
moderator.
Kaveri.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice
Thanks.
seeing you
Bye.
all. Bye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that engaging session. We really appreciate the fact you are allotting us time out of your busy schedules. With that, we end this session. Stay tuned in for the next session. Stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.